Welcome to the Etihad Cargo Connections with 10 Furlongs magazine. I'm your host today, Aurelian Durmion. So today we welcome Jimmy Jerkens, an esteemed horse trainer. Having recently made the leap from the US to Saudi Arabia, we are eager to delve into his experience, from adjusting to a new life in the kingdom to insights on training methods and future racing plans. Jimmy has a wealth of knowledge to share with us. With a successful track record in the US, we will explore how he plans to replicate that success in his new environment. Join us as we discuss his vision for the stable, expectations for upcoming races, and the unique challenges and rewards of training in Saudi Arabia. So, Jimmy, how are things going?
Things have been pretty good. We started off a little slow in Taif, where the meeting started. During the hot months, racing goes to Taif up in the mountains where it's cooler.
Okay.
It's just too hot in Riyadh to have racing year round here. So, but we ended up at the end of the meeting in Taif, ended up winning some races, and we continued on at a pretty good clip back here in Riyadh. So. Like any other time, there's some disappointments. Some I thought would run better than they did, but that's going to happen. So, racing, a lot has to go right to win here. Even when you got good horses, because the fields are very large. Back home in America, a 12-horse field is a full field. Here, it's almost twice that. So,
Wow.
a lot of things have to go right. For to win here. So we're going at a pretty good clip at about 17 to 18%, which is more than respectable. So you just got to keep it going. Racing's getting tougher. The meeting, the bigger races are coming up now
Sure.
this time of year, and there's a few of the horses are probably won't be able to make the step up, but we do have some that I think will. So we just have to work hard and see what happens.
Very well, very well. So you think the differences between the US and Saudi Arabia can be quite challenging, I guess.
Yeah, but there's a lot of challenges that it's taken me. I don't know if you're familiar with the uh, papers that handle racing, like in the United States, like the Racing Form. They have they have when races are drawn. Uh, there's a print that comes out in the paper where every horse it's very detailed as to where their former races as what their position was at every part of the race. The first quarter of a mile, there's a number of where they position they were in and how many horse lengths they were behind the leader at the time, and it goes all the way across the top, and you can pretty much see in the paper what your competition is capable of.
Sure.
Early speed or come from behind. There's nothing like that. So it's
Really?
kind of like a guess game.
Wow.
So there's information on how they've done, and you can watch replays
Sure.
on the computer very easy. But as far as it being right in front of you in print, just looking at it in a matter of seconds, which is what I'm used to. It's that's not happening here. So that's taken some. You have to you have to learn the horses yourself after seeing them a few times and see what they're capable of as far as early speed and such. So you almost have to go by memory as opposed to just having it right there for you to read. So that's taken some getting used to.
I could imagine the US being more similar to France. My grandfather used to take notes and watch read the newspaper and so on. So I would imagine being very similar to that in the US as well, compared to Saudi Arabia.
Well, I maybe that in that aspect, but I'd have to say the Saudi racing is closer to American racing.
Okay.
Uh, Outside of that, I mean,
Okay, outside of that.
the
Sure.
way the way the jockeys, for instance, their position sitting up on the horses looks very similar to American style riders, whereas and there's there's much more emphasis on early speed, no matter the distance of the race
Mhm.
in America and in Saudi. Whereas in Europe, it's all every jockey just about does the same thing. They can't go slow enough the first part. They're always taking hold and saving ground and waiting for the final rush. So You see a little of that here and in Saudi, but predominantly it's a speed oriented racing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So how do you adjust to the life there in Saudi Arabia?
Well, it hasn't been easy. We and it's just a different lifestyle, a lot more quiet. There's not a whole lot of not that me and my wife are party hounds by any means, but there's not much going out, especially where we're here in Riyadh. We're far away from the center where any of the spots are. So it's and we're still not used to the driving here.
Boring, boring.
Very different from New York, I'm sure.
But yeah, and it's and the language, of course, the language barrier is tough. I'm lucky in my job with my help. Of course, my key people speak both languages. Which the riders, none of my riders do. My exercise riders do, but we I know a few phrases, but I can't. I can't. There's certainly no speaking in much detail. If you got kind of different instructions to give. So I have some key people that really have helped me so much since I've been here, and I couldn't have done it without them.
Great. Now I'd like to know what made you take the leap in the first place to move there?
Well, things were going great. I was in Florida early this year, and we had a good meet. I'm sorry, last winter. I keep forgetting it's now January. So, but if back up a year ago this time, I wasn't really thinking of Saudi much at all because we were still in. But around when March rolled around, it was about time to go back to New York, and I didn't. I was kind of disappointed at what the prospects were. I'd only had one decent horse in the barn at the time I'm talking about, and it was a horse named Wayburn. But you can't, he wasn't going to make the whole outfit run itself. So, and then out of the blue, I don't know if you've heard of a jockey named Joel Rosario. He's one of the better riders in America, and he comes to Saudi once in a while for the big races to ride when people pay him to come. And his agent called me out of the blue in Florida. I was parked somewhere, and he said he brought up the outfit I trained for. They called the Red Stable. You know, Indirectly, they're called informally. They're called the Red Stable. That's Prince Faisal. And I said, "Geez, I don't know, Ron. I don't know. Saudi Arabia was on the other end of the world, and all I knew, I didn't know much about Saudi Arabia, is that they had a lot of oil and and camels and and sand and a lot of desert and he said, "Yeah, but I know you're not doing very well, and they're looking for somebody." I said, "Well, I'm 60 something years old. I'm not sure. That's usually a kind of younger man's spot, especially coming from America. There was always a young guy who had nothing to lose or nothing to. He had no family, or he said, well, he'd just say, 'What the hell? Let me go and see what happens.' So it was a lot different for me. I had a lot of stuff, baggage, if you want to say. That's kind of negative, but that wasn't the case. But when we had family and properties and stuff. We had to think of. So but then Prince Faisal flew on Easter Sunday in April. He flew me and my wife out here, all the way out here, to take a look at it. And when I first drive out of the airport, that terrain is just awful. I mean, I said, "Oh my God, how does anybody live here?" It's just end to end sand and haze, hot haze, and oh boy.
Tough
But
place.
then when I got to the barn, and the stables are very nice,
Okay.
and the horses, they paraded the horses out in front, all of them, the young ones, the ones that were, the older ones, and I kind of liked the condition of them, and but and I said, boy, this might be okay as far as a horse standpoint. I thought the stock looked good. Then we then we flew home, and I still wasn't thinking, I don't think I want to do this. But then I went back out to the barn at where my horses were stabled that I had in New York, and I looked down the barn, and I didn't see much to really make you want to basically come there every day and work. It's a hard job. It's 7 days a week. It's a lot of stress, and it's gotten, especially in New York, the operating's been so expensive. And if used to could get away, used to could away with having a few, a kind of a slow time. You could make your day money and at least eat you through. You could make a little bit of a living, but it's not the case anymore. It's a losing proposition if you don't have horses running and winning just about, on a weekly basis. So it was just that was mounting up, and then I don't know. We went back, and me and my wife, we went back and forth, and finally just made the decision to bite the bullet and do it, see what happens. And here we are.
And here you are, very well. Well, Jimmy, your figures in terms of numbers of runners per season had decreased quite rapidly over the last few years in the US. Was this
Mhm.
something you had planned for a while?
No, not at all. I mean, it just was attrition, I guess, so to speak. The horses weren't there. Some of my owners went by the wayside. Maybe some got out of the not out of the business, but got older and just didn't. Frank Stronach was one that was I had many good horses for it. I probably overall had better luck with him than anybody. Frank Stronach that owns Gulfstream and the Maryland racetracks and Adena Springs, they're called. And he got in he when he ran for political office in Austria, where he comes from, and he ended up having to give up all his holdings, his horse holdings, to do it. And it went to his daughter, and then they had a big fight. I just can't fathom anything like that in my own family, but I guess it does happen. And they were hammering, and got out of base. He didn't get out of it all, but he got out of the breeding and keeping any horses that they bred. If they breed any now, they all immediately go to auction. So
Okay.
that we losing him was big. And then another outfit of mine, Centennial Farm, who stayed very loyal to me all through the years. Your young horses just didn't pan out the last few years, and that was a killer. And then I just didn't have anything new coming in, and I'm not a big hustler and not a big social media guy, and these young guys get on that thing, and they that's people want that nowadays, and
It's true.
that really wasn't my thing. I wanted to just go there and take care and train the horses as good as I could, and hope for the best. But it takes a lot more than that now. So that's about the best how I can explain it.
Well, I hope you're in a better place now, even though you're in Saudi.
Yeah, yeah. There's horses there, and I love that. There's a lot to do.
That's good.
There's a lot. There's nice horses. There's competitive horses, and it's challenging. But it's at least it's something to look forward to because the potential's there. And like I said, like any other time, there's some disappointments, but we've had big thrills. We had a horse called My Franco win a big Crown Prince race here
Good.
a couple of weeks ago, which was a big thrill. So, and we have a lot going on this weekend too. So,
Good.
it's exciting. It's a lot of work, and training horses is always a lot of work, but it can be very rewarding. So, and it looks like it wasn't rewarding at all back home for the last few years. So, decided to make a change.
Perfect. So we talked a little bit about the differences between Saudi Arabia and the US. Now
Mm.
let's maybe concentrate a little bit more on the training methods. What are the
Mhm.
main difference between training, let's say in the US versus Saudi Arabia?
I think it's a little more haphazard here.
Hmm.
Um, they're not really, back home we almost have them galloping to the inch, as far as distance goes. Seems like a lot of horses go out, and if they gallop here, if they gallop fast, they gallop fast. If they gallop slow, they gallop slow. It doesn't seem to make much difference. because they run their horses a lot more often here than back home.
Okay.
So that keeps a lot of the horses fit. It keeps them fit for a while, but if they keep doing it, then they lose their edge. I've seen a lot of horses, quite a
Really?
few horses, and good horses
Yeah.
lose what they had because they're just running too much. I think a few of the people, I think a few of the people need to take back a little bit um, and give the horses a little more time between the races. But then, some of them might not be confident in what to do with them in between the races. So maybe that's why. I don't know, but we do. I a lot more. Times are big times, whether it be fast or slow. I like to know exactly what it is, so if you have to build on something or take back from something. So a lot more. I don't know if perfectionist is a kind of a good word for that, but I like it monitored a lot more closely than what I see here, and that's what I've been kind of trying to implement.
Okay, fair enough. What are your plans for the year ahead?
That's a good question. We're just gonna ride this out. I don't know. The meet ends in early March. I don't know if we'll have much action in Dubai, which I don't. That's still up for discussion and stuff like that. But supposed to head back home to America around that time if we don't go to Dubai. Probably the latest would be the end of March or early April, and then I just go home for 6 or 7 weeks or so and come back to Taif. So, but I've had a lot of young horses that I purposely had instead of the people here like to run. They like to run, and it's disappointing when horses don't get to the races. But when you have young horses that you think have potential to be good older horses, you kind of gotta say, listen, this is the best way to give this horse some time. And I have one in particular who I'm really excited about is a Zoffany. You've heard of Zoffany, the stallion Zoffany?
Mhm.
Okay, well, this is a horse just turned 3 that won. He won his first start going 6 furlongs, and he's not a 6 furlong horse. He wants to go further, and I really but he won going 6 furlongs because I think he's just classy. He just won it on his class. So he's one I'm looking forward to next season because we did the right thing. We didn't his shins. He started getting shin problems and sore shins, and you can run horses with sore shins, but it's nothing they're gonna have something fatal. They're not gonna nothing's gonna happen in that regard as far as breaking bone or something like that. But it's a pain. It's a little bit of a pain that they remember, and you don't want a young horse feeling that because they remember that all their lives,
Wow.
and you want to keep racing. We want to keep racing as fun as possible for a horse. You that doesn't mean you can't put demands on. I mean, any athlete they need and hard demands, but you got to know when to say, hey, not this time. So I think because of that, we'll have some better. Uh, There'll still be 3, but it'll be later on in the season, mid year, and in the fall. I think I'm kind of excited about that.
Okay, great. If we look at some of the big race meetings coming up, for example, the Saudi Cup Day, what are your plans?
That's still another thing up in the air. Matter of fact, we have horses running this weekend that have to show that they have to perform to the level to run in those races on Saudi Cup week. Uh, as far as the Saudi Cup itself goes, that's probably a long shot. The only horse that I could conceivable horse I could see would be my Franco that won the Crown Prince Cup, but he's more of he wants to go further. He likes to be lay up close to the pace and kind of dictate the race from from laying up close, which that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen going 1,800 meters around one turn against the best horses in the world.
Sure.
So, but a lot of Saudi horses have gotten good checks in the Saudi Cup. Great Scott did finish third a few years ago. That's from my outfit. So the one thing, the only edge that a Saudi horse, a horse running in Saudi might have, because the horse is shipping in, is the fitness level. The tracks here are more demanding
Mm.
than they are anywhere else. So if you have a good bottom on running on these tracks a lot, you're very fit. You have to have some kind of, you have to have a certain amount of freshness also. So you got to have the combination of having enough racing to be dead fit, and you couldn't have run so much to where you just lost your spark. So if that happens, then a horse that's been running here all year could have a decent chance at it. But the horses that do ship in, they usually, for the most part, are decidedly better. So, well, you're putting up 20 million. What do you expect, right?
Exactly. In regards to the GCC season, what are your goals there?
I don't really understand it that much, to be honest with you. I know there's some GCC races coming up, and we have horses entered in there, but I'm still pretty green as far as the whole concept is. I'm just learning about it. So when you say my plans, I don't really know what the time. I only know the plans on the as far as the races that are coming up that are their GCC races, but I don't really know how to answer you that. I don't really know enough about it. So maybe a little later on, I'd have a better answer for you.
Definitely, definitely. Looking forward to the next meeting for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few horses already. Do you have any horses you're particularly excited about? You did mention um, the one who won very recently.
Yeah, Salim, his name is. Yeah, he's the one that I'm really banking on if you to for the next season, because I love he's kind of a plain looking horse when you look at him, but his color is very plain. He has no markings on him, but he's put together confirmation. When you go to a sale and you want to look for the perfect horse
Sure.
to buy. And you look at him, a pan shot at him, and he's got everything I like. He's a tiny bit effeminate looking, possibly, but would be my only knock against him, um, overall. But like he's got a very kind, timid face, but he hasn't done. I started training him when I first got here, and he hasn't taken a step back. Not he hasn't done anything. Uh, he hasn't stubbed his toe along the way, which is very unusual for any horse. Till recently with the shin trouble, and that just comes from a lot of pounding on bones that aren't quite there yet. So um, he didn't go lame by any means. He wasn't noticeable, like he didn't never trotted or galloped or did anything. I never saw any impediment in his stride at all. But locally, when you pressed on those shins, they were sore, which if you keep going, they only get worse. So it was decided to back off him and pretty much wait for the next season.
Fair enough. In regard to the stable, what's your vision over the next few years?
I don't know. I have a 2-year contract.
Okay.
I would be nice. I can't really decide if I want to stay or not. It depends. We're getting used to the living here, and it suits me okay.
You can tell them about my job.
And and my wife has got she's a physical therapist, and she's just got a good position at the humanitarian center,
Excellent.
humanitarian city. So there's reasons for us both to stay, at least for the near future. But I'm out as far as we got to keep, as far as the Prince Faisal stable is concerned, there has to be production. If we don't produce next year, I think, okay, we did good this year, and we need to finish up good, but it has to continue, because there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of horses purchased. There's a lot of pride, and you know,
On in
we have to keep.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have to keep it up. So I can't tell you after this, pretty much after the next year, what's going to happen. But
I
I
understand.
wouldn't be. I wouldn't rule out staying longer. I really wouldn't. But you know,
Great.
good stuff has to happen in
Excellent.
both for me and my wife.
For sure. Do you expect more American trainers to come to Saudi Arabia over the coming years?
I do, because a lot of them are getting, are getting disgruntled back home. Is myself and a lot of people who are in my position. They did very well, and it's hard to, it's all being so localized to, there's fewer horses, and there's fewer good horses because the fall crop is down, and they only go to 5 or 6 trainers. So
Wow.
your chance of getting a if you're not one of those guys, a chance of getting a good horse in your barn just it's slimmer and slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And those are the horses that keep you going. So especially now, as expensive as it is to operate there. So it's a good question. I think we will. I think we do. And there'll be more of a demand for people because there's more stables being built here,
Yeah.
and the racing is getting bigger. So I think there'll be more demand for American trainers.
What
I think
advice? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay, but you're right. I mean, it looks like I would have to say there's gonna be more coming.
Very good. What advice would you give someone either thinking of making the move or maybe even preparing to do so?
Well, to be prepared for
They're
the.
better than we did.
Good answer.
No,
Well, it's hard to prepare, really.
It is,
You
it's hard.
gotta. I don't know.
Listen,
I don't know what to. I
Can I
don't know
help, can I
what.
help him answer this?
Yeah.
Sure.
So what I would say is it's something you really can't prepare for until you get here. But the thing to do is make sure you know everything is clear to you before you get here. Like you have, I don't know if you need some kind of a contract, but things that are going to be expected and things that you expect from them at the same time.
Yeah, things as a rule, things as a rule here are a little
Laid
haphazard.
back.
They're a little haphazard,
A
and
little laid back.
and something we think is a big deal is like, so what, here, and it's not a knock, really.
It's not.
It's just a
It's a different culture.
it's just a way of
It's a
life,
cultural thing.
and
So
and
American,
then on the other hand, there's things that you aren't thinking a big deal that they think are. So
yeah. So it's there's always a big cultural learning curve for sure.
but people are nice and polite, and
They are.
and just be yourself, basically. I mean, don't overdo,
Yeah, don't.
don't just be respectful. Well, of course, anybody likes that, but I can't see being any much different than you already are, and just take it all in and
Yeah.
roll with the punches is the best advice. It's nothing you're going to learn overnight, because
No.
you see things like the driving here is just, I've never seen
Oh,
anything
yes.
like it. It's like the Wild West. You can't. It's almost like there's no rules. They go on the opposite lane that's heading north. They're on the south lane, and they get right over just in the nick of time. It's like, oh my God, that looked
Oh,
like a
wow.
head on, and and they don't bat an eyelash over it. Whereas you back home,
I'm having a heart attack.
you'd lose your license for a year if you did some of the things we see.
Sounds like
But
more
I'm
like
learning.
Italy.
Yeah. Oh, is it?
Yeah, from what I hear. Yeah.
The Italians drivers are crazy, that's for sure. So, Jimmy, you were a very successful trainer in the US. How do you go about bringing that success over there? For example, is there a case of continuing with a winning formula or just adapting to a new environment?
Well, a little bit of both, but I like to do what I learned and
Okay.
try to see how far it goes. It's been pretty successful so far.
Can I say
Um,
one thing too now? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Jimmy does a lot of teaching here too. They really love to learn from him. There's things that they love to. I see trainers schooling horses in the afternoon now that didn't used to do it. Stuff like that. It's kind of cool to see. They ask, and he's always good about that, like his dad was.
That's nice.
Well, but you have to, but
They
you know,
ask you.
you have to win though. They're not going to respect you if you don't
Well,
win.
you
So,
are winning though, so it's good.
but yeah, I like to think, I like to think, you know, and the horses as a whole, they look good, and everybody's horses look
They
good
look
here.
great.
So they feed very well here. The feeding
Yeah.
programs are always top notch. I love the feeding programs. You get good quality, and they train horse. You need a little tougher horse in Saudi Arabia to last, because it's not racing isn't easy here. It's hard, and it's demanding. Most of the races are longer than they are
Hours. We're talking about the hours.
than they are back home. And there, another thing it took to get used to is the early training hours. Because of the heat, I guess it originated because of the heat in Riyadh.
Oh,
Start very early,
wow.
and then on racing days, you can end up, if you're in the 12th race, you don't get the race. The horse doesn't run till close to 9 o'clock. Then you got to get out to, you know, you got maybe a chance for 3 or 4 hours sleep to get up to train the next morning. So the hours can the hours can be a little tough,
I understand.
but you know, everyone's in the same boat.
Sure. Do you think there is more pressure in Saudi than compared to the US?
Pressure on me?
Yeah, pressure
Or
to do well. Yeah, pressure on you.
not really.
No?
You know, there's you know, my owners are great. My owner, Prince and Saud and Saud are, you know, they've been very supportive, but comes right down, you know, a couple of horses that you thought would run good, run bad. Morale takes a hit. So you gotta, but it's just something you gotta just keep at it. And at least there's enough. See, back home, if you depended on one or two horses to do all the good, and something happens to them,
You're done.
you don't have much recourse. But at least here, I got enough horses in the barn where I got, well, God, that was a disappointment. But then next week, I got this one who's been training good. So there's always something at least now, there's always something to look forward to as far as running a possible winner. So that's what I like about it.
Great. If you could sum up your move in one word, what would it be?
It might be a little strong, but I think I'd have to say, overall gratifying.
Hmm,
Yeah,
That's good.
that sounds
yeah,
great.
because
I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
it has been at least more gratifying than I envisioned it. When I was flying over here,
I'm just looking at the moon
I
still.
must admit, God, I hope I did the right thing, but I wasn't leaving anything that made me feel good every day. So it was very difficult to go to work there every morning, knowing I didn't have the stock to make it work. So um, I'm glad, I have to say, sitting here now, I'm glad I did it.
That's great. Very positive.
Yeah.
That sounds very good. Thank you so much, Jimmy. That's it for today.
Well, thank you.